everyone, and welcome to Stanislaus State Science Week. My name is Sanpreet Kaur.
And my name is Chelsea Flores. We're part of the Science in Our Community team here at Stan State.
Stanislaus State is pleased to provide the community with opportunities to learn by engaging in live activities and pre-recorded activities that will be shared throughout this week through Zoom and Science in Our Community YouTube channel.
Before we start, please know that this event is being recorded, and we'd like to ask for you to stay muted unless you're called upon. Additionally, to keep this activity fun for all, please only use the chat to ask or answer questions. Thank you.
Now it is my pleasure to introduce today's activity, Volcano Making Chemical Reactions, with Ms. Hannah Menninger, Ms. Stephanie Smith, and Ms. Shannon Hernandez.
Hi everyone, I'm teacher Hannah. I'm so glad to be with you guys here today. And I'm really excited to be doing this activity with you guys today. So we're gonna start our presentation and then we will go from there. All right, so volcano making chemical reactions. All right, so we're gonna start off with what is a volcano. So a volcano is a very large mountain that has an opening at the top where lava, volcanic ash, and gases escape from beneath the Earth's surface. So if you were to stomp on the ground right now, you'll feel the ground underneath of you. So when the ground moves, it's called tectonic plates, but when they move back and forth, or if they move apart from each other, there's different ways that underneath the Earth that there can be an opening that's made. And essentially that's where the lava and the magma can come out. That starts to form that volcano that starts to look like a mountain. That if we were to see a picture of a volcano like we see in the slides, that's what we start to see. It looks like a mountain and it has an opening on top. Some volcanoes are a lot smaller. They kind of ooze out lava and magma. Some are really, really tall and really high and start to kind of smoke a little bit in that second picture. And then there's some that my personal favorites are the volcanoes that have the really beautiful big explosions of lava and magma and make a really awesome explosion and it erupts and it explodes. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the parts of the volcano so we can understand it a little bit more before we get started with our activity. All right, so the parts of the volcano, you'll see in the picture on the slide, that it has four main parts of a volcano. So again, like I said, underneath the Earth, it's called a chamber or a magma chamber. So that's where the really, really hot liquid rock stays, and that's underneath the Earth. And as the Earth shifts and moves, it creates that opening that goes up through the volcano called the vent. So think of it as a really large tube that goes from the bottom of the Earth all the way to the top of the volcano. And at the top of the volcano, you'll find what's called the crater. So think of like a circle or maybe what looks like a dish at the very top of a volcano. And that's the opening of it. That's where the lava and the magma come out. Then you have the cone, and that's the triangle part of a volcano that is that's the mountain. That's where over time and time again, as that volcano erupts and that liquid and magma come off the sides, that it starts to form that cone shape of a volcano that looks like a mountain. And so a few other vocab words, I guess, so that way we can all better understand volcanoes. One of them being magma. So this is hot melted rock that's underneath the surface of Earth. So like I said before, the magma chamber that's underneath the ground. And then lava, that's the hot melted rock that as it's going up the volcano and as it comes out, its name turns to lava. And that's what we all know and what we can see. And then there's volcanic ash. So that's that big cloud that comes out when a volcano erupts that has a little bit of everything. It has some rocks, it has dust, it has gas, and different things that can come out with the lava. So yeah, those are a few more just vocab words as we learn a little bit more about volcanoes. And last but not least, we're going to figure out what causes a volcano to erupt. So I have some pictures because I'm a visual learner, and so hopefully that's helpful for you guys. So what causes a volcano to erupt is, first off, underneath the Earth's core, the inside of the Earth gets really, really hot. And so it starts to melt all that rock. And so you see in that picture, it looks really liquidy, and it's kind of combining and melting all the rock in pieces that's underneath the Earth. And then step two, as it starts to bubble. So if you were to boil a pot of water and how it starts to bubble a little bit. So it's the same thing. The rock is getting really, really hot And as it forms these bubbles and as they start to pop, it's creating an invisible gas. So we can't see it, but it's called carbon dioxide. And that makes it expand and grow. So as it bubbles, it's going to start to grow in through the volcano. And then the third step, this is the final step of a volcano erupting. So as more carbon dioxide is made, it creates pressure. So it gets really, really tight and it's building. And finally, it pushes up the magma up the vent of the volcano. So again, that big long tube that goes up through the volcano. And that's what causes the eruption. So it starts to melt. It bubbles with those carbon dioxide bubbles. And then it finally creates enough pressure to create what we know as a volcano eruption. So with that, we are going to make our own volcano. So now it's our turn. So let's make a volcano. Teachers at this point, feel free to start passing out materials and that we provided you guys. And then that way we can get started on making our volcanoes. All right, so I have in front of us, I'm going to move back just a little bit so you guys can see. So we have different materials for today. So I have a small water bottle and I have some clay, and this is going to be step one. This is what we're doing. We're going to secure the vent and the magma chamber. So remember, the magma chamber was underneath the earth where all the magma and hot melted rock is. We're going to pretend like the bottom of this is our magma chamber and that this water bottle and how it goes up is going to be our vent. So we're going to pretend that these are the parts of the volcano that we're going to make. So we're going to start by grabbing our clay. Everyone should have a small amount of clay, enough to kind of fit around your water bottle or maybe cup that you guys are using. And I'm just going to piece off just a little bit of clay, enough so that I can stick it to the bottom of our water bottle. All this is going to do is help secure it to our tray or whatever you guys might be using or doing this on. So whatever flat surface that you're using. And I'm just going to kind of wiggle it into place, make sure that it's good to go, it's secure. And then that way, when we start building around it, it's not going to move around as much or anything like that. So if you guys have a lid of any sort, we want to make sure that we unscrew that cap and take it off, because again, this is going to be that crater, that opening to our volcano. So we want to make sure that we leave that open. All right, who's ready for step number 2? Awesome. All right, so step number 2, we are going to build the cone, the mountain around our volcano. So this is the time where you guys can take your clay and start building your mountain around your water bottle. Just a quick little tip, it's great to start on the base of it rather than maybe at the top. So if you work from bottom up, it might be easier to be able to build your volcano. And this is the really fun part. You guys get to touch the clay, feel it, move it all around. This is my personal favorite part of this activity, just because, well, one of them, just because it's really fun to use the clay and move it all around. Awesome. All right, so as I am getting the base secured, and so see how I'm attaching it to both the tray and also the water bottle, now you can start to form it up onto the water bottle. And this part can be a little bit tricky. So if you can't get it all the way up, that's totally fine. I found a great strategy of just kind of smearing the clay around, so that way you can still cover it. But yeah, so we're making the outside of the volcano. So remember how we learned that volcanoes kind of ooze out lava over time. And so that's what creates this outside part of a volcano that makes it look like a mountain. I'm sure when a volcano starts and it's a really young volcano, it's probably not going to be very big, but over time it builds and it creates that cone-like structure around a volcano. So yeah, I think that's really cool. All right, hopefully we can kind of see how it's going. It looks like everyone's working really hard on their volcanoes, guys. That's awesome. Keep it up. How fun. All right, I'm getting there. I'm trying to smear it around. Like I said, it can be a little bit tricky, and that's okay. This is so fun to see so many people. I love it. And if you guys have any questions at any point, feel free to ask in the chat. And I know Miss Stephanie, as well as Sampreet, And some others are watching the chat to make sure that you guys get all of your questions answered as we do this activity. Awesome. Oh, I love seeing all these volcano structures. This is awesome. All right, I'm just about done. I have the last section to do. Again, like I said, if you guys can't make it all the way up to the top, that's totally okay. Just as long as we're attaching it to the bottom and we're trying our very best to make it look like a volcano. All right, so I have my last section and then we'll get started on the experiment. All right. All right, so that's about it. So I have both my volcano attached to the bottom. So you see the base that's stuck to the tray or whatever flat surface that you're working on. And then I started to kind of crawl up the clay around my water bottle. So remember, on the volcano, so we're making the magma chamber is underneath. That's what the water bottle is. And then the vent that goes all the way up. And then we have made the cone of the volcano that's around the water bottle. And so if you want to, feel free to add more around the base of your volcano, maybe make it look more like a mountain, like a cone. I know we all have different shapes of water bottles and cups and things like that. So whatever you guys have is what you guys can work with. All right. Yeah, and if you guys are done, maybe you guys can look at your guys' partners, maybe compare mountains, maybe compare volcanoes, see what looks the same and what looks different, and then we can go from there. All right, I want to make sure I'm giving everyone enough time to get ready for the next step. All right, does it look like some are done? Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, give us a thumbs up.
Yeah, give us a thumbs up if you guys are ready for the next step. That way we can make sure everyone's on the same track and that we're not going too fast for anyone.
All right, we got one class thumbs up.
All right, we got some thumbs up.
Yeah.
We got another one. Awesome. Looks like we're waiting on just a few more and then we'll get started on the next step. Awesome. We'll just give it about one more minute and then we'll head on to the next step. Like I said, you guys can, if you guys are waiting, you guys can compare and contrast what your guys' volcanoes look like. Maybe you guys can even start to talk about what you think this process is going to be like, making those predictions. What do you think is going to happen? I know you guys know the materials that we'll be using. So what's going to happen when we combine baking soda and vinegar? Have those scientist hats on as we start to ask questions and predict what's going to happen. All right, so I'm going to go on to step number 3. And this is what I like to call, we're going to prepare the magma. But really, we are just using our baking soda, and in just a little bit, we'll use vinegar to actually make the magma come alive and have the lava come out. All right, so I have a little bit of baking soda. Again, everyone's going to have different cups and amounts, but really just the same amount of baking soda is about the same amount of vinegar that you guys can use. So this is roughly just 2 to 3 tablespoons of baking soda. And then I also have, again, this is optional. You guys can have some red food coloring that you guys can put inside of your baking soda. I also have a different option if you guys want to do the food coloring in your vinegar. That's a great suggestion as well. And I actually did that as well. So I'm just going to do it in both. That way I can show you guys both options. And then I'm just going to have a really red volcano, which is great. All right. So you're going to do 2 drops of food coloring, 1 and 2. And then it might be a little bit tricky depending on how wide your crater is or the mouth of your water bottle or cup. So I'm going to start by pouring the baking soda into the opening of our water bottle. So you guys can work together, maybe make a little funnel or just slowly. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to go down the sides a little bit probably. And we're going to make sure that we get all of that baking soda into our volcano. So we're preparing the magma chamber that's down below the earth, or in our case, in our water bottle. All right. So that is step number 3. So I think I can see everyone's working really hard on getting that made. All right. So I'm going to start preparing for step number 4. So then that way we can get ready for our eruption. So we did talk a little bit about making those predictions. So now is a great time, as we're preparing that last step, is to maybe ask your partner that's next to you or your classmate and ask them, what do you think is going to happen when we combine the vinegar with the baking soda? Or maybe take it one step further. Why do you think it's going to do what you think it's going to do based on the ingredients that we're using? And so now we're going to prepare our vinegar. You can even smell it. It smells really strong, but some people really like the smell, and that's okay. All right, and I have my next up, my little disposable cup, and we're gonna pour about the same amount of vinegar that I had baking soda. And again, I did some food coloring in my baking soda as well as in my vinegar, so feel free to do the same, or you can just do it in one or the other, or if you don't have food coloring, that's totally okay as well. All right, so we have our vinegar, we have our baking soda inside of our volcano. We are getting ready to do the final portion of this experiment. Are you guys ready? Thumbs up? Yeah? All right, I need everyone to help me with the countdown. I know we're not going to be able to hear everyone, but I'm going to do a countdown. So everyone get your cups ready. We're going to count down from 10. Ready? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pour in the vinegar and see. Yay, we made a volcano, everyone. High five, give your partner a high five, all that fun stuff. That was so cool, guys. So you guys just made the same chemical reaction that happens inside a volcano. So just like how the magma builds up and it bubbles and it creates that carbon dioxide that builds up pressure enough for it to explode, you guys just did the exact same thing when we combined baking soda and vinegar. It mixed together, it bubbled. You might even be able to still see it. Mine's still sizzling and bubbling. All those bubbles are filled with what's called carbon dioxide. And as it pops and releases, it creates this sizzling pressure that builds up. And as it built up through our volcano or through the vent, then it finally exploded and erupted outside our volcano. Guys, give yourself a high five. That was so much fun. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let us know. But I don't know about you guys, but I love experimenting with baking soda and vinegar. So if your teachers have extra, maybe ask for another round that you guys can try again. What's going to happen if you guys add in more baking soda and less vinegar, or more vinegar and less baking soda? Or what's another way that you guys can make a volcano? Maybe you guys take off this clay and you guys try to make a different type of volcano. Because like I said, there's some that are really, really tall, and there's some that are a lot more flat. They're called shield volcanoes. So definitely use this extra time as you guys are wrapping up this experiment to kind of take it one step further if you guys want to. Maybe you can ask your teachers if there's different pictures that you guys can bring up about volcanoes and kind of compare and contrast the size and then what's coming out. But I had such a great time doing this with you guys. I hope you guys did too. And I just want to let you guys all know that you guys are now officially junior volcanologists. That is someone who studies volcanoes, and I think that's so cool. So thank you guys so much for joining us today, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you all had fun, because we definitely did. And I hope you will be able to join us for our future activities. And thank you once again. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much for watching. Please follow us on social media to find more about our upcoming events.